Once upon a time, high above the rugged cliffs and endless skies, there lived an eagle named Eiros. From the moment Eiros hatched, he was a symbol of freedom, strength, and the boundless potential of life. Yet, despite his majestic wings and keen eyesight, Eiros struggled deeply with the concept of selflessness. He was raised to believe that the greatest virtue was to serve others, to give until there was nothing left of himself. And so, Eiros spent his early eaglehood constantly sacrificing his own needs for the sake of others. In the beginning, Eiros found meaning in helping others. He would offer his food to smaller birds, carry young eagles on his back, and tirelessly search for lost chicks. His heart swelled with pride when he saw others thrive because of his actions. But as time went on, a deep fatigue set in. The more he gave, the more others seemed to take, until Eiros found himself depleted, unable to soar as he once did. One fateful day, as Eiros perched on a branch, wings heavy and spirit weary, he met a wise old falcon named Falcon. Falcon, who had observed Eiros from afar, approached him with a question that pierced through the fog of Eiros' exhaustion. "Why do you give so much of yourself, young eagle?" Falcon asked, his voice calm and measured. Eiros, surprised by the directness of the question, replied, "Because it is noble to be selfless, isn't it? I want to help others, to make sure they are safe and happy." Falcon nodded thoughtfully, then said, "It is indeed noble to help others. But have you considered the cost? By neglecting your own needs, you are weakening the very wings that allow you to soar and help others in the first place." This was the first time Eiros had considered the idea that his endless giving might not be sustainable. The concept of caring for oneself began to take root in his mind as Falcon introduced Eiros to the idea that tending to his own needs was not selfishness, but rather a necessary part of being able to contribute effectively to the world. Falcon began to help Eiros understand the thoughts that led to his unhealthy selflessness. Eiros realized that he had been operating under the belief that his worth was tied to how much he could give to others. He had to challenge these thoughts. He began to ask himself, is it really true that I am only valuable when I give everything away? By examining his life and the results of his actions, he discovered that his value was inherent, not dependent on his sacrifices. As Eiros began to see things differently, Falcon taught him the importance of balancing his desire to help others with the need to take care of himself. Eiros learned that while his desire to help others was admirable, it was equally important to accept his own needs and limitations. Falcon taught Eiros to find a middle ground, where his rational thoughts and emotions could guide him in making decisions that honored both his desire to help others and his need to care for himself. Eiros practiced paying attention to his own needs without judgment, and learned to manage his feelings of guilt when he chose to prioritize his well-being. With these new insights, Eiros began to focus on what mattered most to him, living a life aligned with his values, which included both helping others and maintaining his strength and freedom. Eiros embraced the idea that taking care of himself was not only an act of kindness towards himself, but also a way to ensure that he could continue to be there for others. By committing to actions that were consistent with his values, Eiros started to see that caring for himself was not about being selfish, but about making choices that allowed him to thrive and, in turn, help others effectively. As Eiros continued his journey, Falcon introduced him to the idea that there were parts of himself he had disowned or ignored because they did not fit with his self-image as a selfless eagle. Eiros confronted these hidden parts, discovering the aspects of himself that longed for recognition, success, and even admiration. Falcon guided Eiros through the process of accepting these parts of himself, integrating them into his personality. He came to recognize the positive potential within him that he had been projecting onto others. By reclaiming this potential, Eiros discovered a newfound confidence and the ability to embrace his ambitions without shame. In time, Eiros came to understand that his journey was one of realizing his full potential as an eagle. By acknowledging his own needs and aspirations, Eiros became more authentic, more true to himself. He realized that by fulfilling his own potential, he was better able to contribute to the world around him. Falcon explained that this journey was not a selfish goal, but rather the culmination of a healthy, well-lived life. As Eiros embraced his freedom and strength, he found that he could help others not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to share the fullness of his life with them. Finally, Falcon helped Eiros to focus on the strengths and solutions he had already begun to implement in his life. Together, they envisioned Eiros' best possible future, where he could soar freely, helping others while also maintaining his own strength and vitality. Eiros set small, achievable goals that allowed him to gradually build the life he wanted. He learned to focus on the progress he was making, rather than the challenges he had faced. With each goal he achieved, Eiros felt his wings grow stronger and his spirit lighter. Eiros' journey was one of transformation. Through the guidance of Falcon, Eiros learned to balance his selflessness with caring for himself. He discovered that true freedom came not from giving everything away, but from nurturing his own strength and potential so that he could soar to greater heights. As Eiros flew across the sky, he was no longer weighed down by guilt or exhaustion. He had learned that taking care of himself was not a betrayal of his values, but the very thing that allowed him to live them fully. Eiros became a symbol of balanced freedom, an eagle who soared not just for himself, but for the world that admired his flight. And so, Eiros continued to soar, a living testament to the power of self-care and the deep, unshakable understanding that by taking care of himself, he could truly make the world a better place.